In previous videos, we've looked at how we might collect data in a study. Now, we're going to look at how we can describe or organize that data. There are two main types of data that you might collect. We call that qualitative data and then quantitative data. These are the two main types. Qualitative data is data that describes a quality of something, or you might say a category of something. So basically, qualitative data is describing in words something about the data. Quantitative data, however, describes data that can be counted, so it comes in counts, or it can be measured. And so when we think about things that come in counts or measurements, that would be numerical data. One way to remember these two definitions is to think about the beginning of each word. Qualitative data actually starts kind of almost with the word quality, whereas quantitative data starts with the word quantity, which refers to a number. So qualitative would be a category, quantitative would be a number. All right, let's look at a few examples of data that might be collected and categorize which two of these types of data it would be. First example, the flavors of ice cream at Salt and Straw. So we're talking about flavors, which is a quality of the ice cream or a category. So this would be qualitative data if you were collecting the different flavors. Next, number two, the income in dollars of each household in Oregon. So this would be a number, right? Dollars would be a number. So this would be numerical, or what we would refer to as quantitative data. Quantities, quantitative data. Number three, the amount of rainfall in inches for each month of the year in Portland. In inches, again, we're talking about something measured or a number. So this would again be quantitative data, a quantitative data. And then finally, the last example, the response of good, average, or poor on a quality report for a hotel. Good, average, poor is a category, not necessarily a number. So this would refer to qualitative data. All right, so we've talked about those two data types and we looked at examples that kind of fell into one or the other. But sometimes information can be presented in either of the two ways depending on how the researcher chooses to collect the data. So I just wanted to point that out with a couple of examples. Let's look at the height of a man. It would be possible to collect the height of men in two different ways. Now, probably most commonly would be with numbers, as a quantity. So if we thought about how we might collect this data in terms of quantitative data, we might collect the height of men in inches or feet, or in the metric system with centimeters or meters, but we would measure it if we were collecting it quantitatively. But we could also collect it qualitatively if we thought about just categories of height. So we could put men into categories like people who are short, people who have medium height, or tall. And you could even add more categories, very short, very tall. But you could think about the height of men in terms of the categories, or you could think about the height in terms of measurements. So there are two ways sometimes that you could potentially look at collecting data for a particular thing you're interested in, and it's the researcher who would decide how they want to do that. Another example would be grades on an assignment in a class. If you were in an English class on a paper might give A, B, C, D, or F grades without a number associated. So those would be a category, so there's not a number there. So this would be a qualitative data being collected. Whereas if you were in a math class, so these English grades, whereas in a math classes almost always are going to give you a percent that you earned or a point value earned on a test or on an assignment. So if you were looking at percents, that would be a number, so that would be quantitative data. So again, many things that we might collect data on, we could collect it in multiple ways, depending on how the researcher or the situation applies.